Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. Welcome everyone to the Public Works Urban Beautification meeting for April the 28th. Call to order. Declarations of conflict of interest.
See none?
At this point, we see none. Approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, sorry, there is a conflict of interest
Oh,
for me.
sorry. Okay.
Under C2.
C2. Okay, the concrete covered, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to remove
I'll
myself.
have to move itself now. Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. As far as the approval of the agenda, I probably would like to add the property on the corner of Kensington Road and Belmont, where the accident was there, coming up off Park Street. I'd like to discuss. There is a request from that lady, so I'd like that to be discussed. I think that.
Can I add one thing? I missed the
Yeah.
email that came out from Trace McLean. They just want the committees to go back over and review the terms. of
Yeah,
reference.
that was something else I thought you were
Yeah.
doing. Okay, so terms of reference discussion. So those two items, if we can add those, that'd be awesome. Anyone else have anything at this point?
So terms of reference, and what was the other one?
A request from a resident at the corner of Kensington Road and Belmont and Park.
Okay.
And outside of that, we'll go to the, I guess I need approval of the agenda, don't I? I do.
Yeah,
So,
move it.
moved by Kevin Ramsey, seconded by Councillor Mike Duffy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of March 24th.
Sure.
Everybody had a chance to read them? Okay. Any business arising from those minutes?
No.
I just have a question on the, I know that in the last meeting, the mayor had required, asked for a possible meeting with the vendor. And I'm just wondering if that ever happened. Mayor Van inquired if it would be possible for an AVL vendor to meet with the public works director to discuss the evaluation process.
We are
I
meeting
think,
on Friday.
You had one?
No, this Friday. No.
There is a meeting proposed, correct,
And
sir?
I think we just got the confirmation.
In person?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
thank you,
Great.
Councillor. Yeah.
Okay. Just an update there, City Board of Persons with Disabilities, I'm meeting with Brenda Porter tomorrow. She's one of the members of that committee, and she wants to just give me an update, so just to let you know on that one. That's at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. I did miss the last board meeting, but she wants to update me on what happened at that meeting, so just so you know that. So there might be something else come forward at the time of our monthly meeting.
And Mr. Chair, just under tenders, number 3 is Mr. Adams, RFP Pest Control Services.
Correct. Yeah.
Last night we met for, the Standing Committee for Environment and Sustainability met, and the chair proposed, it was the chair of the committee proposed that this pest control services go back under Public Works.
Okay.
So I don't know how that affects the tender.
So it doesn't really affect the tender. So it was one tender that we put out, and there were kind of two parts to it. One was the monthly pest control buildings, just inspecting for insects and all that, and trapping and all that. And then the other part, which is typically managed by the Environment Sustainability, is the raccoon and skunk control one.
So we want that back under Public Works and Beautification.
Yep.
What was their justification?
Yeah,
Do you remember they felt that it would be better suited here than there?
And we do currently already take all the phone calls and manage it.
For pest management, that's what you're taking care of.
And is that all right with you?
And that is totally fine, yeah. We currently, Maureen is the one that takes all the phone calls anyway from the public and arranges with the contractor to set the traps. So really, there's no real additional work on our part other than signing the licenses.
And Mr. Chair, the reason I bring that up, you're the former chair of
Yep,
Environment and
yeah,
Sustainability.
yeah.
Did we turn that over back to the beginning of 2019?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
And did you have issues with it? when you
No,
were chair?
no, I think just that it was environment, it was kind of an environmental issue, more than it was public works, I guess, at that time, but I mean, it's, you know, it's, we work together anyway, public works and environment, so, you know, if we're taking the calls, and we might as well, you
Yep,
know,
yeah, we
and
can
and
easily-
any reference we
yeah.
need on the environment side, you just reach out to Ramona anyway.
So that does not have to be approved by CAC or anything?
Yes, it would,
Because the terms,
yeah.
Oh, under the terms of reference?
That'd be
So
one of
we'll have
our,
to note that as when we get to that discussion.
Okay.
New items, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that one.
is it too late to put that on the agenda for Friday's meeting?
No, we have to.
Okay.
yeah, we could add it.
Yeah.
40 years.
Yeah, okay. Good, thank you very much for that, Your Worship. Anything else, guys, under the minutes? Anything?
No.
Okay, so I do need to adopt those minutes, so mover and a seconder for that, I guess. Moved by Councilor Duffy, seconded by Len and Yankoff, thank you. And under reports, the 6A, the 2021 street resurfacing tender, Mr. Adams.
Thank you. So I've attached a report here that identifies, I guess, so staff have completed their street condition assessment, and using our first review of the streets, we developed a program based on the $1.5 million budget allotted for resurfacing. So there are 29 sections that are being resurfaced or rebuilt at some point this year. And just to note, of those 29 sections, I did include the 3 that they don't come out of the $1.5 million budget, they come out of the street and road improvements section of the budget. And those are the 3 streets that have been approved for reconstruction this year, that's Garfield Street, Pine Street, and Harley Street. So, but I want to just include that to show that they will be resurfaced by the time that work is
Okay.
done.
But not with the $1.5 million.
Exactly, they come at their own
different,
separate lot of money,
yeah.
correct.
And obviously you have them in order of worst to first.
No, this was order of, this came out of the order in terms of which we expect to pave in sequence. So when we go to tender, we put out a schedule saying these X roads have to be done by June 26th or whatever that last Friday of June is. And then the next section is usually school zones, they have to be completed by the end of August. And then the next section is the ones that have to be completed by October. So this is just based on that schedule. It was just, I just literally copied and pasted from that section. So there may be slightly out of order of which is the worst one out of all of them, but these are of the entire street network, these are the worst ones.
And just Chair, would we at some point get that list as well of how it's gonna be broken down into which section is first in case our
Absolutely,
residents
yep,
call?
yep. That will be part of the tender document, and I can definitely
Okay.
provide that, absolutely.
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
Councilor Duffy, question?
It's not a question, it's a request. And I would like this to be in the minutes for future references. Can you take any reference to recommendation out?
Mhm.
Because if you leave recommendation in, all it says for information only, it gives the connotation that council will make it, that this is a recommendation to council for decision, and that is the farthest thing we want.
Right.
Yep.
Is
Yeah, I can, what I
council
can
does
do.
not, this is an operational issue, the streets. Because if you don't do it, they're gonna say, we want to vote on it in this room here, and then it'll be all over the place.
No, it's a very good
But
recommendation.
just past practice, sorry, Mr. Chair,
Past
past practices, is that how it was
Yeah.
pulled through?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
We
my
don't want the
understanding-
word recommendation
Yeah.
anywhere on these sheets of paper. Just
No, we
black
can
and
definitely-
This is the list.
Yep.
This is a list for information purposes only.
And this is 1.5's got it, right?
This is slightly more than 1.5, the first 26 that you see. So you see on the second page there where there's kind of note street reconstruction.
Right.
Garfield Pond and Harley Street, those are aside from the 1.5 because they're under the street rehabilitation or street reconstruction
Reconstruction.
budget. So they are, those 3 streets are being completely torn up, replacing water, sewer, stormwater, sidewalks and curb and gutter.
Okay.
Chair?
Yes.
So when the tender goes out though, you're tendering it out more than just 1.5 because you're asking for these 3 streets to be included in?
No, these 3 are not included. Those are going to be part of separate
Right.
tenders.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, you're probably aware that the federal government is got a bill going through the Senate right now, Bill C-25,
Right,
to double the gas tax.
right.
So if that does happen, do we come back here and look at possibility of other street resurfacing
If that is a possibility, but again, they'll have to, council would have to give some direction for staff to go with it, with the second phase. Obviously, all the capitals are approved to them. Right now, it's in a holding, once again, those funds will retain on how they're spent, whether they go for this or for the roundabout or whatever else is a discussion yet to be had for sure.
Yeah, so probably staff would probably make a recommendation, but it would come to council for their review, and, because as we were told by the problems there's a couple of roundabouts that there's not gonna be any money for, right? So that gas tax money might come in handy for doing our own infrastructure work. So,
And out the 1.5 that we're taking from the gas tax, do we know of what's left of that 3.3, 3.8 million?
I have to go through the budget, but none of it's left. It's all been reallocated. It's all been allocated through this
Water and sewer,
budget.
streets?
Water and sewer and the street rehab, because there's water and sewer for Garfield Pond and Harley. We're taking some of those gas tax funds and allocating to those street projects as well, because it's joint venture. between
So when
departments.
it does get through the Senate and then
Mhm.
gets royal proclamation, then we'll take a revisit.
yeah,
Yep, absolutely.
One question,
yes, sir.
Mr. Chair. The streets that we're gonna be doing, and I've been harping on this for 6 years now, are we in conversation with sewer and water,
Yes.
that all of a sudden we don't get it done, and then we say, uh-oh,
So
we have to go in?
no, absolutely. So
I
we-
mean, let them do their work first, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So we've been in talks with them. They did have a preliminary, we gave them half a dozen streets that we knew were going to be on this list about a month ago, and they were
Good.
starting to look at those already.
Okay.
We have since provided this list to them that we thought was the final version. We just finalized it. But yes, we have been in talks with them. We are also discussing what our future streets that will have to be fully rehabbed for next year and years to come. So those are discussions that are ongoing. But as of right now, they did not identify any of these streets that are urgent need to replace the underground infrastructure in terms of water and sewer. They have a few other hotspots that they're looking at, that they call, that we will be determining when we'll go in there and rebuild those streets.
No,
Those
yeah,
streets,
yeah, you just follow, you just said
Yeah.
we all seen it through the years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I got one street, for example, Elmer Drive years ago, and all of a sudden they finally got it done,
Uh-huh.
and next thing you know, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I know. It's, and that's my.
That's the only thing I'm asking, that
Yeah.
you can be in contact and
Yeah.
all of a sudden.
I've
think-
been talking to the manager at Water and Sewer
Good.
multiple times on that.
No, that's great, that's
I
great.
keep asking, I need their hotspots.
You're
I need
right.
their hotspots.
The old
I
saying
know
is-
I
Yeah.
want to pave it, it looks not only bad in public works, it looks bad in the city. And
Yeah,
I don't
that's
want
right.
that.
Communication's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately though, there can be a break.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and we still look bad because we just paid,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, that's the way
Yeah.
the
Rosemount
business
Drive,
is.
3 years ago, Rosemount Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They checked it, they paved it, and then it broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can't do anything about
There's
that.
always something gonna happen.
Yes,
You
yeah,
understand
it's
that?
unfortunate,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Chair,
Yes.
Chair, totally unrelated to the list here, at Harley Street, I see in the news this morning that only 3 out of the 29 apartments that people living in them have returned. They're ready, and they didn't give any they didn't give any reason why only 3 apartments had been occupied out of the 29.
Gee.
The rebuilt apartment on
Harley, where the fire was.
Stories?
Probably
The
got
fire
places
was.
to live.
Yeah,
What's that, Ryan?
Maybe they all just found new places to live.
Well, that's kind of what the insinuation.
Yeah.
Plus,
They didn't give any reason for,
Yeah.
it's advertised in the paper when you see the advertisement. Like the rents are $1,500 to $1,600 or $3,000
They
a month.
are. for
I don't think they were
seniors.
paying that probably when they were there, but who knows?
somebody has to pay the 4th
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah, like I'm like Counselor Yankoff, like 95% of probably found a place. Because they've been out for a while, right?
They want $1,500 a month, every month,
Yeah.
not a month.
Yeah.
And if you really get some money, you
Yeah,
get
it's every
$3,000.
month.
And if anyone has tenant insurance, then they would have been looked after under the tenant
Correct.
insurance. But it would not be the onus of the
Yeah.
landlord.
No.
Only for the
Yeah.
bricks and mortar.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
Yeah.
You know,
So
so
it's
you had
pretty-
tenant insurance, you would have been
Yeah.
looked after.
Yeah.
And most times in a lease agreement, you have to prove that you have tenant insurance, so.
Yeah, and sometimes, some of the folks might have moved in with family and all of a sudden, you know, it's a good thing, right? It's,
that's
you know,
right.
so there could be, we don't know what the scenarios could be, but I'm sure they will have no trouble filling, you know, once people know that they're available.
And I think some people have buddied up with someone else.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
because COVID, they're like, you know what, this is not bad.
Yeah.
for
We don't want to be moving right
Yeah.
now anyway, right? Yeah, so it could be that too. Okay, any other discussion on the street resurfacing tender? No?
Thank you, sir.
Good, thank you very much, everybody, good input. Houston Street, Longworth Avenue, Kent's Corner intersection upgrades. Mr. Adams.
Thank you. So you'll all see the large piece of paper in front of you there. That is the revised drawings for the intersection. So we heard that after some discussion, I know there's some concerns about restricting movements in the last proposal, how we had tried to do this. So we went back to the drawing board with our engineering team, looked at some safety parameters, and so we have determined that with some signal upgrades, signal optimization, adjustment of some curb lines, and adjustment of where people stop bars are, we can significantly increase safety in there, provide better directional information for drivers so that they know which direction of vehicle they should be looking for when they approach the intersection. We believe that this will meet the needs of safety and significantly improve the traffic flow through there. One thing that's not shown on this drawing is the traffic. So the north of your page is Longworth Avenue. So traffic that's coming from Longworth Avenue wants to turn right onto Houston. We are going to look at putting a no right on red. Because if you look at where this crosswalk is, there is a bit of sightline issues there, because it is quite far down.
Yeah,
We
it
don't
is.
want people, what you see now is people extend right through that crosswalk,
Yeah.
waiting to see.
Yeah.
We don't want to move until the traffic signals say it's safe to ride, or safe to drive. So we're looking at imposing no right on red. We've watched
That
what's
makes
happening
sense.
at the Providence right now with their major intersection with the no right on red,
Mhm.
and the one at St. Peter's and
27 light intersection.
What's that?
27 traffic lights
Yeah.
intersection.
So they have no right on red at that intersection, and from what we've seen, it's been very respected. People are abiding by it, and I haven't heard people complain about it. From talking to the province as well, they have been getting people that are abiding by it. So we think that will be a solution that people will abide by, and will help improve safety for the pedestrians, because that was one of the major concerns with people at that crosswalk there. A lot of people come flying down from Longworth Avenue and into that crosswalk without actually
Stopping.
stopping, correct, yep.
And of course, you're bent looking that way.
Yes, exactly.
Houston, and you don't
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
residents or the students going across the street. So
Correct, yeah.
I think that's a great, because the safety of the residents and the students have got
Absolutely,
to be
there's a
paramount.
major apartment buildings,
Yeah.
there's the school there, there's a lot of pedestrians, especially lunch hour, trying to go to
Yeah.
the.
Oh, it's
there
crazy,
too.
yeah.
There's a lot of movement there,
Yeah.
so, we're happy with the final design.
Mr. Chair, there was some preliminary discussion that we were going to make the upper part of Houston one-way street, so not allow any cars to go up there. That's not shown here.
No.
No.
Why would we not go with a one-way only?
There were some concerns with both access for large trucks to A1 vacuum there. They do some unloading and loading from Houston Street. So it would severely restrict the movements around them. We don't want to get a lot of vehicles parking on the side of Longworth. It's already narrow. We've already put some hatching in there to make sure no one parks there. We'd rather them be on Houston Street, which is slightly less volume, or which is a lot less traffic, and there's more room for parking, so that they can easily unload and get the truck back out of there. And then there's some there's some issues with operation, trying to snow clear and things like that. Makes it a little more challenging. And then there's discussion in this room about if we can keep traffic moving from all directions, but that was the preferred method. And so that's why we went back and proposed this design, yeah.
And just before Councilor Yankup, so in Perfection as well, or ADL, sorry, they also load back on that side as well sometimes.
Yes, exactly, yeah, you're right.
So I kind of realized that.
Yeah.
And so have we talked to these folks, A1, and like, have we?
No, not since this. We did get a message from A1. They were concerned originally with the proposed plan
Yeah.
about it, but not since we changed, because now it doesn't impact them at all, really. At the end of the day, they can still get their delivery vehicles in and out of there. They have parking still on Houston Street, and so it's still.
Okay, so before it goes to council, should we perhaps you make that approach and just to.
We can
I think it
definitely
was
touch base with them again and say, here's the.
getting
yeah,
back to communication,
for sure.
right? It's,
Yep, and so when the resolution comes forward, we can just say, pending.
Pending.
We'll recommend moving finance
Right.
pending the
Pending,
final
right,
confirmation
okay.
with them. Yep,
That would be,
absolutely.
yeah, because I do know the last time I was in A1, Peter had said nobody's ever come to A1 back and
Yes,
no
so
one had come to you
yeah,
and
not
discuss
since
this.
we've had
with
this
us.
update, so
You
we'll
know,
definitely stop by and.
You want to bring them in as part of the solution, right?
Yep.
Good, okay, Councillor Inga.
Just to build on what Councillor McLeod, Chairman McLeod said, why wouldn't we, instead of writing in the resolution that it's pending
Mhm.
that these people agree, why don't we reach out to those that are most greatly affected before we create the resolution, so that when we're able to disseminate the information to the public, it becomes a good news story that's completed instead of pending this and waiting for that. It's just my thoughts, and that when we do finally take this to council, if we can request that the communications department is ready to go with getting this information out to the public, all of the city, not just the area that it's connected to, so that they can hear the.
Yeah, I would like to,
side of it.
we'd actually carry it as far as a press release and introduce it, but I think we need to have everybody on board first, right? You're right. No, I agree.
Yeah, especially if you're saying that A1 Vacuum has never heard from anybody.
No,
But-
Like I say, we did get a note from them about the original plan, and
Yeah.
that's was one of the leading factors, plus conversation here.
Right,
Yeah.
so you got a note from them, but they didn't get a note from you.
Right, no,
Yeah.
they
Right,
didn't.
so that's
reject
why
us.
they
Yeah.
said that they've
Yeah.
never heard from
it probably
anybody.
wouldn't hurt to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe get them all in one if you want, but we should approach them anyway.
Sure,
And,
absolutely.
Mr. Chair,
Councillor, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. That's the beauty of live stream, so I know that
Yeah.
individuals would be watching.
Yeah.
So anyone that is watching, what I also do, I just call people to say, listen, if you want to see it, go to YouTube, City of Charlottetown, you'll catch everything. So that is getting out there, but formalize it as it was
Mhm.
requested
Yeah,
by
that's good.
Councilor Yankow.
Good point.
Scott, if I look at the corner of Pownell, Spring Park in
Yeah.
Houston, you have the differential signalization,
Yeah, which is not
traffic-
fully implemented yet.
drip traffic signalization.
Yeah.
It works,
Yeah.
right? It's just, there's some issues with the walking,
Mhm.
the pedestrian walking signage. It's just confusing.
Mhm.
Are you doing the same for this corner? Are you doing the traffic? Oh.
No, we.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Could I just tell you
Yeah,
why?
yeah.
Because the traffic that's coming south off Longworth
Yeah.
onto Weymouth, and the traffic that's going north on Weymouth, Weymouth turning west onto Houston,
Yeah.
it is always an accident situation. And that also, Scott, causes, as you probably know, Councilor
Yeah.
McLeod, this is a corner I grew up.
Yeah, we all grew up in this corner.
We know that corner,
Yeah.
is that the traffic that's coming north on Weymouth
Yeah.
and going west on Houston, that's where traffic accidents
That's
are
where they
happening
get-
too,
yeah.
with pedestrians. Not just the slip lane that you're talking about,
No.
or the merge lane, but that, so what I see down here at Pownell, some people don't, I know my wife doesn't like it,
Yeah, yeah.
because of that 7-second
Yeah.
difference, but it works.
You gotta share the road.
It works. And it's just, you have to get caught up
Yeah.
on just ensuring that the pedestrian crossings are working too.
Yeah.
So could we not look at,
So we have.
and what was the
The
answer?
main concern was traffic volumes. There is a significant volume of traffic on Longworth and Houston. There was concerns that we would cause the model is showing quite a lot of delays from some of the approaches to try to get that coordinated well. It's an option. We can definitely, that's a programming thing. At the
I
end of
know,
the day, we
I
can
know.
program it to do that. So we do have that in our back pocket if this doesn't work. Our consultant was quite confident, especially with how we are, how we're adjusting the lanes as they approach to the intersection. As well as you see in the picture, there's a dash kind of line through it. That is markings on the road. And so we are putting the markings on the road to show that when you have to cross this line, so that means you're crossing into oncoming traffic. So that makes drivers aware that this is the path that oncoming traffic is taking, and so be aware of that. So with those measures, the consultant has used this in other areas. This is a unique situation, of course, but there are intersections like this around Atlantic Canada, North America, and they feel that adding that will, and improving the location of the signals and everything, will make sure that we don't have that issue. Again, we'll monitor it, like anything new that we install, we like to monitor it, see how it's functioning, and if we still see seeing a lot of concerns, a lot of drivers still not abiding by all the marking and signage, then what we can do is we can easily reprogram it to make that change. It's a 20-minute change, really, a program.
Yeah, it's just like the chair. We grew up in the area, we know that the situation. There are two, as I said, there's a potential of a vehicle accident where the traffic coming off, going west off Weymouth onto Houston, and then there's a pedestrian accident possible. That's why I feel that, you know, after watching this, going home, coming back to City Hall, it's traffic signalization that you have at the corner of Pono, Spring Park and Houston. It works, it's not perfect, but it does provide more safety. And it's not one of those crossroads, it's actually a veer off.
It is,
similar to this, but
It
this
is
veer off
similar.
is much more severe compared to Pono and Spring Park Road.
Once you
Councilor
cross
Darcy
your
knows the
center
area
line,
too.
yeah, once you cross your center line, you're in trouble. You know, you're the one in wrong.
Yeah.
And we don't do that in Brighton Ward 3. We stick with
the.
We don't need the lines, do we,
We
sir?
don't need lines.
Councilor Yanka.
Thank you.
Ward 5 is the same.
It should also be duly noted that with the outreach and drop-in center being relocated from Lower Weymouth up to the old curling club, we have to be really mindful that there's going to be a lot of increased pedestrian travel. And so if we can keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
Yeah.
And so Scott, is there any way we can have all traffic stop? And let all
A
pedestrians?
pedestrian scramble.
Yeah.
Lovely idea. Tried that. The former chair. And he said it doesn't work in Toronto. It's right down in Dundas and Queen. Thousands of people cross every day. I'm going to that box. Want to put it back in?
Was that you, Councilor Duffy?
No, Councilor Bernard, the former chair, didn't he?
No, the former chair was you because I brought it up. Yes. Oh, you said, no, that's not a good idea. And then you had this guy agreeing with you.
I've never been in downtown Toronto, so I wouldn't have any least.
Where's he going?
No, what we'll look at doing is giving a leading pedestrian phase. So
Right.
essentially, the pedestrian walk light comes up about 3 to 5 seconds before vehicles are allowed to move, so that they're already in the intersection, and then cars can go.
Right.
So that's what the option will be in this.
Yeah, okay. No, I do realize that the left lane turning off Longworth, or off
Right,
Weymouth,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
not much of a holding pattern
No,
there, right?
no.
So that's why I thought it wouldn't work,
Yeah.
but at the same
I
time,
agree with you.
it would be nice
Yeah.
to try it at some point. Maybe this isn't the right intersection, but.
And, Mr. Chair, just another thing that has come up, and I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter and Facebook, the buttons that we have right now for pedestrian crossings, there are some issues with that you have to push it in, and some there are pedestrians that don't have full capability with their hands have difficulty. Of course, we have some that you just touch,
Yeah.
like at this corner, I believe, right here. Can you keep that in mind
Those are the
too?
ones that are going back in, yes.
And if
those
you
are-
could replace what we have in
Yeah.
Yes.
downtown, it's
Some of them are
one of
hard.
those
Yeah.
concerns that
That's the
people
model that we are specifying.
really brought it up because of COVID-19 too.
Yeah.
COVID-19 as a reason, not COVID too.
But we still gotta educate the public to
2.0.
use those buttons, your worship. Your
So that's
worship,
another,
your
we'll
worship,
put some signage up.
over here. Stop for 2 seconds.
Okay, keep her going, I guess.
We still, the public gotta educate themselves, those buttons are there for a reason. They have to use them. I'm so frustrated, as I said for years, how people just dart right out, but there's a button there for a reason. Traffic from both ways, if they see the little light flashing, they should be paying attention, right?
Yeah, well, Mr. Adams can tell you that people that walk across University Avenue from the Gene Canfield don't even put on the light sometimes and walk without even looking
Oh,
both
it's
ways.
unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Down the
it's
street's the
just,
same way.
yeah.
Down the street's the same way.
Hey,
Okay.
any other comments? No? Good.
Just last question, do we have an estimated cost?
Yeah, good question.
What's it budgeted?
So we did go with tender already, 356 plus taxes. So that's upgrade all the signals, poles, everything, because.
How much was that again? Scott?
356.
356, yeah, it's in the resolution package.
It's in there, okay.
Or in the resolution, it's in the tender, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you very much. C, tenders, Houston, Long Meadow intersection upgrades.
So the first one, we will defer, so my role will be, we'll reach out to ADL and the A1 backend just to advise them of these upgrades.
Yeah,
And we get some time to get back to us, and once that expires or we hear from them, then I'll circulate an email to
Well, don't we put
committee.
it on the floor now, it's subject to you meeting with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And said that way, it doesn't stall the process.
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
So,
and,
Mr. Chair, it's to approve subject to the bid.
Yeah.
Thank you to my staff to
okay, are you okay with that, Councilor Yankoff, or, because you had brought it up and you thought we couldn't do anything until we talked to
So
them?
don't talk to them before it goes to council.
Okay,
Well, the businesses.
as long as they talk to them.
Yeah, as long as you
Yeah.
think that that process is gonna, you know, we need to look up for our residents and our business owners in that area, so.
Yeah, as long as, yeah. Okay, we're okay as long as the conversation does happen, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, okay, Scott, and the,
Last one,
the concrete,
I'll just-
oh yes, Mr. Brown has to,
I'll have a beer.
so this is for precast box culvert for Beach Grove Road. That is under
Oh, yes.
the intersection of Upper Road,
Yeah.
Beach Grove Road. Went out to public tender, closing April 12th. We had 3 submissions, a little bit of Shaw Group, 248, 981, and 60 cents plus applicable taxes. Is the one we are recommending for award.
One question, Mr. Chair.
yes, go ahead, Mr. Rand.
We're gonna be asked this anyway, is this, are these island companies?
The
I know the
Shaw-
second one is.
Yeah, the Shaw Group is not, Atlantic High Span and Maritime Precast are.
Yeah, because we were gonna be asked that.
Shaw
How
Group
how will the
is,
Shaw Group ever be able to do the work then?
what's that?
How will the Shaw Group be able to do the
So
work?
all it is they precast so this is precast, so everything's built in their shop or at their yard and then trucked over here to site.
So they're just providing the culvert.
Exactly, we want to provide the build the culvert now, and then we will go out for another tender to find a contractor to install it.
Chair,
Yes.
and I know I don't know what the request for the quotations look like. I just see that the Atlantic Group and the Shaw Group are just so close that I'm just wondering, is there any, and maybe it's opening Pandora's box, but is there anything in there about, with it being so close, looking at awarding a local company, or is that just right outside the Atlantic procurement? and-
So this would fall under the Atlantic procurement,
Okay.
so it's an equal opportunity for anyone within Atlantic provinces to
Okay.
bid on it and bidding process. Yeah, it was very close, which
Yeah,
is,
and there's nothing in the
$3,000.
Atlantic procurement agreement that I saw that there's a room for exceptions, is that correct?
That's correct.
I didn't see any either, so. Peter, can you shed any other light on that?
Yeah, no, there is no thing. Now, there are some, if they're under 25,000.
Yes.
The province allows a 5% variance, but for these larger ones, there is no.
Okay.
Not only is there no reference to that situation, that is the reason for the Atlantic
Right,
procurement
of
agreement,
course.
is to take the choice away from people, yeah.
Right.
And one other thing too, just to remind everyone, so this question may come up, what about trucking costs? All that is included in the price, so that is to be delivered, that's FOB to Charlottetown from Nova Scotia, so that's all included in the price as well.
So the Shaw Group is from Nova Scotia?
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
So we're looking at what, 3,000 difference or?
Yep, right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cash.
$3,000?
$250,000, no, $250,000.
Oh, yeah, it is. No, I agree. And,
Yeah. And there's no thought of delay in this, Scott, with COVID?
No, they can start manufacturing quite quickly, yeah.
And that's the only reason I brought it up, Mr. Chair, because.
No, it's a good point.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah,
really,
and we're probably going to be asked.
They're kind of exempted under the constructions are still allowed to happen. Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
okay, I'm going to, any other concerns or questions for that one? I see none. Okay, we'll move on to new business if you want to ask.
Do I have to?
No, we could leave. He gets mad when we do that.
You see
We
how,
need to know.
you see how fast you went with the other ones without him here?
We've done that in the past, left them out of it.
I thought he was going.
Yeah.
Kind of remind me of Mitch.
Didn't you know he was gone?
He is. Probably eating your burger in the fridge. Is the mayor here? Come on in, my friend. Let's go.
Away from the topic, discussion.
Oh, yeah.
So you tell Mr. Won't say any names.
Oh, there's a glass by the door where you're going.
So, introduction of new business. I had mentioned about I had a resident concern over traffic on the city that on one corner there I already have the cement post and ballast to protect the house, and she recently has had a car go through her house, so she's wondering, they're paying to get their house all fixed up, and she's wondering could they get a ballast put in front of their property. That's on city land.
The last email I got, I think, the mayor also received it, was they actually asked for
Sandstone.
what's the word, these large sandstone run on
Yeah.
the property.
But I don't know if there would be room, we wouldn't own all that property, would we?
It would be theirs, that's correct, it would have
Yeah.
to be on their private property, correct?
Yeah, so,
And I don't know.
What house is it, Terry?
And I don't think the.
right on Terry
older
Jane and
would-
Taylor. The yellow one on the corner there. As you come up Park Street,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you turn to go to Belmont.
Right.
Well, that house right there.
Okay, okay, good.
Kenston, yeah.
Used to be Gregorian's.
that's right, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want, I can, if you'd like me to read a little bit, just what she had said, I can do that. It just, our house was struck by a car on September 13th on Kensington Road. It was only luck that people walking in front of it didn't get struck. This is a 4 times in its lifespan. The corner of Kensington Road, Belmont and Park Street is very busy, as it is used for a shortcut for the bridge traffic. Local businesses, Eastlink Traffic Center. Mr. Geiser did tell me that Park Street could be closed, and but no timeline was given, and so the city installed a bollard at the corner of Kensington Road and Belmont, but trucks keep hitting it, causing it to tilt, and it was used as a hangout spot for people until I asked that it be removed. So you're right, it is removed. So we consulted with a friend who was an engineer, and he suggested that 4 large sandstone boulders be placed on the front lawn to stop vehicles from reaching the house. We would like the city to provide us with these boulders. We will do the landscaping ourselves. So I think somehow we gotta, I guess, explain the fact that we can't be going on personal property, I guess, would be one of my first problems. I don't know how we go about that. I mean, if we start doing that for her, then
Yeah.
we're, I don't
And
know.
we do have a policy that
Yeah.
does not permit our staff to work on private property. or
Yeah,
provide
and so
services.
how much of that do we own there, Scott, would you know?
We likely back a sidewalk would be my guess,
Yeah.
yes. Because I'm looking at the power lines that are right in front of our sidewalk, so it's likely, in those cases, our sidewalk is right up against the property line.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Councilor Nico.
Is there a compromise? I mean, in the past, I mean, we certainly have lots of examples over the years of compromises and to things that are extenuating and random circumstances. Is there something that we can come back to help, recognize the safety issue? Is there something?
So our,
Yeah.
the MJ does put us treating them to take them different than anybody else, but if they wish to try to apply for a grant from the city, they'd have to go to finance and to apply to see if there's any capacity or any grant that may be able to be achieved. That would be the only that I can think of. Other than that, it's as the owner of that property, it's their responsibility to
Protect the
maintain
property.
Hmm.
And if it had ended up encroaching a little bit onto city property, because you say a little bit off the sidewalk is city, are they gonna be then dinged with the encroachment orders, encroachment thing as well with with that expense of
I
having?
guess how I read the email, it sounded like they're fine with having the boulders on their property alone.
Okay,
They just didn't want to pay for them themselves.
Are they expensive, Scott?
I'm trying to think we haven't bought any in a while, but I know I've looked into them personally. I think somewhere between 250, 500
Per
depending
boulder?
on big, or per large rock. Yeah. Because there's transporting costs and all that.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so there's that was the last time I can remember, and maybe you can strike a deal somewhere, I don't know. But we don't typically buy them, we don't use them for.
You understand their frustrations.
Well, it's been hit 4 times.
Yeah, but are we open the
Yeah.
door
well.
for
I
other
think that-
residents around the city, I
I
guess?
think that Mr. Kelly had a really good point. If we went back and encouraged them and said, you know, these are the reasons that we can't just out and out provide these for you. However, if you were to send a funding request to the finance department, then the finance department can look at that, and there could be an opportunity for a partial cost share
Yeah.
grant.
Could we also, in the meantime, while that gets happening, could we curb that a little higher, Scott?
We'd have to lift the whole sidewalk and replace it. Now, I don't know if it's gonna help very much, because at the end of the day, when you look at the last accident, they literally went straight from Park Street right into the corner of the house. And to do that much damage, all you would do is jump over that curb and you'd still,
Yeah.
it wouldn't stop you.
No.
Especially straight on. I don't see it being any of a
Yeah.
benefit. Really, the biggest way to do that is reduce the Park Street traffic, because a lot of people are using Park Street from the bypass
Just
to
to
get
cut
to
to it.
Belmont, right?
Yeah.
To get to Holland College, to get to, Manor Road, all those places.
So could it be a one-way street?
So, no, what the goal is, and it's part of the Eastern
Also.
Gateway plan, and it's also contingent on when the province leaves their building, so we're hoping to start those discussions this year. But the goal would to be, make a crescent between beach and park, so that traffic would be just a big horseshoe from Beach to Park Street, and that'd be it. It would all be local traffic now, and then we would eliminate the Park Street access. To get from the bypass, all you can do is go to the parking lot or any
Yeah,
of those
you wouldn't be
things.
able to, yeah. So during the Eastern Gateway plan, that was one of the suggestions made.
One of the recommendations.
One of the recommendations,
Yeah,
and
yes.
there would be a row of trees
Yep.
then as well, right, to kind of separate, and then, because then on the other side of that, at some point, there could be an entrance come in from Grafton Street to the event center, if there was gonna be one built, as a means of loading and unloading supplies and that type of thing, so, but that was the plan, was to make the turn, make a U.
Yeah.
And that would create, then it would stop all that cut-through traffic,
Right.
and it would calm Belmont Street, which is another disaster. It would-
100%,
Yeah,
yes.
it
You
would
would
calm
see,
it,
you would
'cause people
see
wouldn't
quite a
use Belmont
substantial
there.
reduction in traffic
Yeah,
on Park
So-
and Belmont.
that, and so Scott, that can be something we can move forward on without really anticipating, or does the storm sewer, problem come in there?
Not
Not really.
really, not that I see at the moment.
No, it's further away.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and the nice thing is, like, it's all parking lot there now, so it's just more or less a negotiation with the province, as they're the owners, I believe, of that parking lot.
They are.
I think there's some quasi deal between the city and the province about that parking lot, because I think it's used during the day for the government building that was there, but now no one's there. But then at night time's used for the East Link Center and the racetrack, so,
Just point of clarification, what parking lot are you talking about?
the Park Street one, so
The
if
Park
you.
Street.
There's 2 or 3 of them there.
So it's the one that if you're on Kensington Road going down Park Street towards the bypass,
Yeah.
it'd be the one at the very end on your right-hand side.
That's before you go on to Riverside
Next to Golden
Drive.
Bridge.
But it's just before you make that big
It's-
90-degree turn
It's the one that
left.
carries
Right.
over to Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, so where's our parking lots?
That's it,
We own that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then the
think-
province owns.
I think
stuff.
province owns a portion of it, we own.
Yeah, it's kind of a split up,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and so those are the things that we gotta fine tune and potentially work with the province to finalize this thing. But the goal would be to likely get this implemented next year or so, if we,
Yeah.
depending on price, of course, but.
So- Yes, I'm gonna go to Lynn, but, go ahead, Lynn.
So in the short term, while all of these things get sorted, are we able to put in either speed bumps, traffic, just so problematic?
I don't know if you're gonna really reduce Park Street traffic that much, and in the end, you're really gonna annoy the residents on Park Street, because there's a lot of people that's gonna still use this as a shortcut. Really, our speed humps we're finding helps reduce speeds over the speed hump, but not as much reduction in traffic. There's some reduction, but I think you're still gonna see a very high volume of traffic coming off the bypass to get to Belmont Street. And really the issue is how close Park Street and Belmont are to each other, and how busy Kensington Road is. So people are really on the gas coming out of Park Street to get across, and then they gotta cut their wheels quickly and then cut it quickly again to get to Belmont Street. So there's a lot that has to happen in such a short period of time. So I think the best way to restrict people is literally cut that off from the bypass and
So-
reduce that street, or reduce that through movement.
So with Councillor Yankoff's idea, so I know the resident didn't really like the post, the bollard too much, but
Yeah.
that bollard, the one that became a conversational piece, that was right on the corner, right? And then they were stepping off onto the street, and that became an issue. But where this one would be located would be probably
They want it
20.
straight in front of Park Street, because that's usually the
Yeah,
corner.
so they would be
Keeps
20
getting
feet.
hit.
That would be
Yeah.
probably 10 to 20 feet back from the intersection, so
Yes.
it would be safer. How much would one of those cost? Could we do something?
I don't know, we'd have to look at it.
I think that might be the cheapest route for the short term. At least that would stop a car, right? I mean, and that was a health issue, right? This was not a case where the person was just being reckless.
I think, but what might be a better option though is I think it'd be cheaper to buy even just one rock versus one boulder, or
Okay.
one bollard. If that's where we wanna go, I think that would be a better option, because it's bigger, more aesthetically pleasing too for a lot of people, instead of having this,
What's it go down, 4 feet?
it goes down 4 feet typically, and then it sticks off the ground 4 feet, usually 3 to 4 feet, and they're yellow or green and reflective. They're not aesthetically pleasing.
Let's be cautious again, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm all for it, but if you do it for one,
And that's the
No.
challenge too, and do we want to, it almost kind of says, well, the city knows they have a liability concern here, we're trying to fix the liability, that's
Yeah.
one thing we also have to look at.
Yeah, I mean, this is a case where something might happen. It's a case where it's happened 4 times.
I wouldn't suggest us putting it on there. I'd suggest them putting it on there and then write a letter to finance. Because I agree with Councilor Ramsey, everybody and their dog is gonna be at it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get them now. Once you get one and you crack in that armor, they pry it apart and it races on to the city treasury.
So we'll see if there is
Yeah.
a program that might be able, if
Yeah.
not in the interim, we'll have to call it to see if any other traffic calming measures that we may be able to do in the interim until we make that a cul-de-sac.
Mr.
The
Chair,
2 of us here sit on finance,
So,
Yeah.
3 of us.
so.
But
Yeah, three.
we have to find out to make sure that program would qualify for that, that's all.
Mr. Chair.
It means for
Yes, sir.
financial assistance? Good heavens, we've given it.
So on
North
North
of
Road
us.
Road,
Up to you, ready for you?
where North
Oh,
Road
yes.
Road,
Yeah.
Kirkwood Drive runs on Northwood Road. I know because of, and Councillor Duffy knows this too, that Judge Lurch, who lived in that home before Keith Kennedy took it over, there were issues of traffic running right into his house.
Right.
The city did put up a guardrail.
Yep.
So I think that guardrail, if you go back, Mr. Adams, you'll see that that is on private property.
And it's potentially,
Yeah.
Because the sidewalk goes right up to the property line.
yeah.
So it was done for Judge Lurch, and you know yourself, Councilor Duffy, that goes back how many years?
Oh, God.
20, 30 years?
yeah, because the hood's good there also.
And the rules have changed since then.
Yeah.
The policy
What,
was
what,
really
the MGA?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So with the Municipal Government Act, I know there's big changes with that, we all know that inside out. However, it's been done, and I don't think we saw an avalanche of requests to bolster homes near corners that may cause accidents, so I don't see it as a situation.
I don't think it's necessary though,
So-
Richard. We can handle it in another way. We
But
can
some-
handle it,
but
not
something-
to the detriment.
No, but something has to be done. and
That's right.
And I agree with
We
the
can
council
handle it.
from the area, because
Yeah, we have to do something, because it
We'll
is,
take it back, and Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And we had one more item there, I think, who was it, had one is down?
Terms of reference.
Oh, that's
Terms of reference, so you,
Yep, yeah, so I guess we've, in terms of reference, I think it's just looking for, make sure all committees have reviewed them again. If there's anything that committees think that should be either deleted, added to, removed, yeah.
Well, the one thing that we discussed
Yes.
is added was the environmental, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
The pest control.
They'll be added here if you
Yeah.
agree.
And-
Yeah, does
yes.
everyone agree with that?
And there is one other item, clarification on multi-use pathways, under which department it should fall under. I know Peter and I had this last week.
So that came up yesterday,
Yeah.
and this is a lead department, but you will be working in collaboration with Parks and Rec and or
Okay, and that's what, okay.
Working outside the silos.
Yeah, and then we have similar wording elsewhere. Yeah.
So
All can communicate, kumbaya.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Good luck
Chair,
with that.
I didn't bring this up, but the entrance under new business, entrance signage, are we doing that this
Oh.
year?
That's correct, yes.
We are?
We've been working on plans right now.
We will have
Sometime
new
this summer.
signage going up
That's correct, yeah.
to show that welcome to the city.
Yep,
And, Mr. Adams, there is a West Royalty sign out by the new entrance into UPEI.
yes.
That's
that
from the
one's
old
also-
community?
Yep, we've already identified that one. There's also
A couple of others.
another in Brackley, on Brackley Front Road, and then, or no, one on Malpeck Road. It's one of them. There's 2 or 3 that we've identified that also need to be changed.
And
All those are planned for this year.
And talking about signage, the storyboards that we have around the city, the one I'm gonna talk about, Mr. Adams, is the one in front of the fire station.
Yeah.
It's not legible,
Mhm.
it's concrete, there's a piece of concrete there with
Yeah.
something on it. Economic Development has a line item under Birthplace of Confederation Initiative.
Okay.
I'd like to see if we could work together between the 2 departments and take that signage to what we have similar for the 2014. Like if you go down in front of the liquor store at Queen Street, there's the Owen Sound, at the Owen Building.
Owen
Which is
Conley. Owen Conley?
Owen Conley, and the storyboard is right in front of the liquor store. I think that would be a consistent type of signage that we could use throughout the city.
right, so when we talk that, what about the posts that needs to be refurbished? Some of those, like the Founders Hall sign, the black pillar posts that
Yes.
I think the federal government put the part of historic, part of Charlottetown, but some of them posts are in horrific shape. The one-
So we actually talked about that earlier today.
What post?
So anything that we
Here.
maintain, we're gonna go out and start painting, repairing everything
Here's two.
downtown.
And Chair,
Oh, the
speak-
signage.
Yeah, that's, but the posts are bad shape.
and speaking of not working in silos, I realize that this is more of a police services issue, but with the good weather coming, Sunday was a very, very noisy day in downtown Charlottetown with motorcycles, and I realize that it's more of a police thing, but can Public Works work in unison, in partnership with police services to come up with, whether it's increased signage, something, because what's happening is the motorcycles, I think a lot of times is, once they're inspected, they often, sometimes will have louder noises in them. And although I am totally pro motorcycle drivers, I think it's wonderful, I do think that we need to be respectful to the residents of the city as well. So I'm just looking for some collaboration.
Well, I do know, the police committee, the police department does, go to all the shops originally, right, at the first of the spring here. That does installation work, and they do tell them that what's illegal, what isn't, and that they should, you know. So, they do that, and they do, from time to time, do roadblocks and stop checks. But I don't know if they've actually thought of doing one down in the lower part of town, so maybe, I'm on the police committee, so maybe I'll recommend that, and,
thank you.
at least do a little bit of work down that end of the town as well, yeah.
I had 11 calls on Sunday.
Wow, yeah, and I know it's all over the city too, except that
Yeah.
your ward, everyone's on top of each other, so it's, you really hear it.
Chair, I don't know why they don't enforce the law. It's not as though it's hard to find.
Yeah.
You can hear them.
If they're down on Edmund Street now, you hear them.
No, yeah.
Like, and there's 14 police cars, surely to God, they talk.
Yeah, well, they do catch some, they have, I don't know the
Still
numbers.
around.
It's not
It's
stopping.
gonna get
But
worse.
they're not, yeah,
But there's some cars that are allowed also too right now.
yeah, and there's thrush mufflers on the cars too.
Yeah.
And, but the motorcycles, yeah, they're pretty loud,
And although it's absolutely refreshing to see the sports cars and the motorcycles.
oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's lovely. It's just
Spring is
more
here.
so- Spring is here, it's beautiful, but it's,
Yeah.
It's annoying too.
can
Yeah,
be
so,
noisy for
Mr. Chair,
We'll forward that
getting
over.
back to the posts, I brought it up years ago. You know the one you're going down towards Victoria Park and the street lamps and all that, the black posts, I think
Yeah,
you
yeah,
were
yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
that? Like Scott, they have to be refurbished or something, that there's
A lot of
paint is
them.
peeling off a lot of them.
Well, I think that
We
falls
are-
into the same,
We're working with,
That's all it is.
with
Yeah.
operations staff, and we'll be coming up with a plan to get staff to paint those.
Yeah, like
repair-
coat paint would go a long
Yeah,
way.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you probably partner with Parks and Rec on that too, don't you? a
We
little bit?
partner, in downtown core, we actually partner with DCA, or DCI, sorry, with Don Allen.
Yeah.
They have like a clean street crew that usually goes around
Okay.
all during the day, so they do some touch-ups and paint, so we work with them in those summer months. And there are some collaboration with Parks and Rec, of course, too.
Good.
So yes, we do work with various organizations to
Good.
keep our downtown cores.
yeah, because what drives me is, that's part of our evaluation come beautification
Mhm.
time, right?
Yeah.
That's what they look for, is that kind of
Of
stuff,
course,
right?
yes.
So
Yeah.
I think it's critical that
Yeah.
we,
Councillor
a
Yancock,
touch of paint
the
goes a long
baffles
way,
off your
right?
moped.
Like,
She takes off her baffles and the speedboat they have down there.
I
at
can
the
get those
Quarterbury-
on off pretty quick.
Quarterbury
One more
Master.
thing, Mr. Chair.
I don't have a speedboat.
Scott,
Councillor Grant.
I got some
Roll call.
compliments from people when we had the Easter signs up, and other compliments that spring is here and all that stuff. Like, some residents are very pleased, and that looks very nice and all that, like it sort of brightens up their day, I guess.
So that's the intention,
Yeah.
is to keep up those themes
Yes.
as we go through.
Yeah,
Wear your mask.
Councillor Yank.
Ron Jenkins.
Is this some new business?
Since we're file clearing, we're simply really clearing files today.
Oh, I got a couple files too.
Do you remember when we had that beautiful celebration or memorial for the tragedy that happened in Nova Scotia?
Yes.
Yes.
And they had the music out. And we've had other things like that.
Yeah.
There's been a few residents coming from a place of curiosity wondering, is that going to be a continuation of other music piping out of that, or is that a provincial thing, or because it was loud, it was meant to be loud, it should have been loud, it was a memorial, it was beautiful, but just going forward, the residents were asking, like, is that going to be a continuation of other?
I assume you mean down at the provincial building?
Yes.
Yeah, that was all province.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
their memorial, so I'm not
But we are in charge of the noise factor.
No, all that was there is anything that's down Shaw Building, it's all for.
No, but noise is our bylaw.
Oh, yes, that's correct, yes,
So that
yeah.
would
And
be
so they have to
provincial.
respect that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't think it's something that we're gonna see a lot of, I don't
No,
think.
No,
that was
no.
beautiful, yeah.
But Mr. Chair, in that vein,
Sorry.
we have many flags around this city.
Yeah.
And of course, when Prince Philip passed away,
Mhm.
there were a number of Facebook messages that were coming through, calls from City Hall. Why aren't the flags down throughout the city?
Mhm.
One place being in particular is the Charlottetown Event Grounds.
Mhm.
And if you go by there, and Councillor Duffy knows that one of the poles still has the top it broke.
Yeah.
And can we get those flags fixed?
So the challenge has been finding a supplier that can supply the parts.
That's
We've
CAC,
searched-
isn't it?
What's that?
Isn't that
No,
CAC?
we maintain the flags down in.
With the, I thought it was CADC.
So
So was
we-
there a project? We assumed
No,
it.
we have finally found one supplier in all of Canada that can supply us with the parts for these, for our flagpoles. Before, if we want to repair them, we have to rip out the flagpole,
Right.
install an entire new one, which is quite not cost effective at all. But yeah, so I've talked to our superintendent who looks after this, he has finally found one.
Yes.
We've signed a purchase order with them to buy all the parts, plus we're gonna have an inventory of parts to repair all those flagpoles. So that will be coming very soon.
Mr.
Good,
Chair,
good
that
news.
would be much
That'd
appreciated
be good news.
because that is one of the main entry
Oh, yeah,
points in
for
the
sure.
city.
Yeah.
And all the flags were up on the,
It's the the water, the salt.
commemoration of
Right.
Prince
Oh, yeah.
Philip. People were asking me, you couldn't go into a coffee shop, why are the flags up?
Yeah.
I said, well, phone Wallace Higgins, that's his job. But, or more.
So,
But Chair, to build on that, that's where our
Unbelievable, isn't it?
communications department can come in handy.
Again.
Did you know?
Yeah.
Let the residents of Charlottetown know.
And I
why.
believe there was a communication piece.
We did,
that
we
go
did do
out.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
on our social
it
media.
did go out.
yeah, but it needs to be sometimes
But
hammered.
not
just more
everyone has
than once,
social
right?
media.
No, I know,
That's
I know.
right. You're
But
right.
just get-
Let's get them fixed up and then we can do, yeah, but you're right, I agree with you 100%, we need to be doing a lot more.
If you put it in the newspaper, we usually have to pay unless the Guardian or CBC actually picks up the news story.
But we've just put out a
Yeah.
PSA.
PSA or something.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
also on the website too.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
because
Because
it's
us
funny,
as counselors can share it with
Yeah.
our residents if their
Yeah.
PSA is available
Yeah.
to us.
because I have 5 senior homes in my ward and half, well, 3/4 of them, like, not
Oh,
on the
no.
internet and all that stuff. As you know, your worship
Yeah.
went through them with me. and
So,
it's just- they're just not into
Mr. Chair, if
that.
I just could,
Any other files?
I'll tell you what,
You
I
tell
want
me.
to thank you,
Uh-oh,
Mr. Adams, Mr. McDonald.
How about-
I think the meeting went very well the other night.
how about Wallace?
I know our Daniel Mullins was in the audience asking questions. You know Mr. Mullins too, that was too.
Yeah.
But I was very, I
Yes.
think it went over well.
I think we need to do more of that.
And there was a follow-up from SDU Board of Governors. They would like to come in and speak with the committee about their property out there and what's being proposed in this master traffic study.
Yeah.
And I think what that was either Don Reed or Chuck Snow about the data. Could we look at refreshing that data?
So.
The traffic data, the traffic counts?
It's kind of costly.
I know.
Going through that, and really, when you look at it and we calibrate the models, what the numbers show that the numbers show that the data is quite accurate. We allow for factors, various factors, and so when you run through the simulation, it's very accurate, and we have factored the data in with our permanent counters to confirm that as well. So things are very well calibrated. I don't see the value in doing that.
So the numbers wouldn't change much, is that what
Very
you're saying?
little, very little, if any. And one thing they're concerned about tourist traffic. Well, typically you don't design for tourist traffic 2 months, 3 months of the year, because now you're getting into an oversized, over-designed road for
9 months.
half hour and a half hour can be
And for 90
inconvenient really at
days.
the end of the day. Versus, so you don't want it, we usually typically do our counts either in the fall or spring, because you still get school traffic. That's really the school traffic, and the rush hour regular commuter traffic is what we're trying to do, because the tourist traffic, if you count on a rainy day, well, that's gonna throw your counts way off. Because people are either at the beach in the summer month, or rainy day, they come from visit Charlton typically. So we don't want to count during tourist season, because it will throw our counts significantly off. So we try to do them in those shoulder season. There's still tourist traffic, so it does give us some inflated values. But
And I think
Yeah.
Mark McDonald from CBCL gave a great explanation.
Mhm.
He's an engineer. That's like me trying to tell a police officer, this is how you should hold your gun, or how you should take someone down.
That's right.
I don't have that expertise. I think he gave a great explanation.
fantastic.
And if you're saying that the data, if it's refreshed,
Yeah.
the numbers won't change that much anyways.
And that's the best practice, is avoiding in the tourist season. when
Correct.
you're
That
doing
is
those.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just because unless unless that traffic is there practically all year round, which it isn't.
Okay.
We'd be designing you would show a road that probably could need, Capitol Drive could need 6 lanes of traffic almost,
The other,
for that peak time.
The other thing I noticed that came up quite a few times at the public meeting, and I saw that the gentleman from CBCL was quite responsive to it, was we keep talking about it being a traffic plan, and whereas it should be a transportation
Mhm.
plan, because we're not just looking at vehicle traffic, we're looking at the busing system and the active transportation and the walking lanes and the.
Yeah.
And so I hope that we're reflective of that when we are making these changes.
Correct, and in the traffic plan, or transportation plan, it does talk about, following best practices for complete streets and all that. And that's why we wanted to make sure that slide was up to show that, there's gonna be a roadway, and there's going to be sidewalks and paved pathways.
Yeah.
And to to move the pedestrian traffic as well as encourage it. The vehicle traffic is going to be there. People are always going to need vehicles. You know, we are a hub for the island, so a lot of people coming into town.
Yeah.
When we looked at some of the data, it was unbelievable. So we can get data. Essentially, there's this company out there that buys data from cell phone companies, and so they strip out all the confidential information, but we get this data that shows trip generation. So it shows where someone originated from and where they ended up. And unbelievable the amount of traffic that generated on that Saturday, the race that comes from Stratford, Cornwall, and beyond. There was actually, I'll try to get the doc or the schematic that he showed me, but it was unbelievable how that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So we use a lot of this data to help fine tune the modeling and all that. So there's a lot of things that go into these models, not just the specific traffic count at those intersections, but where people are starting, where they're trying to get to at various times of the day. And it's, again, best practices. That's what a lot of any good traffic engineer, they're using all these data to calibrate the model. They want to have the most accurate, reflective information to provide their clients and the public. So.
And Chair, just to follow up on my question, there was the other big concern was some of these streets that have frequently used parks. Are we going to relook at avoiding traffic on, I think Ash was one of the
Correct.
streets.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like,
Ash for sure.
Yeah, Ash for sure,
So,
Mount
yeah,
Melbourne
yeah.
Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like one of the options that we can definitely look at is doing a treatment where when people come up to Manor Road and Spencer, they can only go left or right.
Right.
And so that eliminates that cut through. Now, are some residents sure would be unhappy with that? Absolutely, because now they have to go down and try to make a left-hand turn somewhere else. So there's sort of those that's trying to balance trying to balance those. So that is definitely one treatment we can do. There are a number of other options that we can do. We can always see, you can build it as a four-legged intersection, monitor it, and make that commitment that where are people actually coming and going to. You can track that information. You can follow people through. And if we are seeing an increase at other streets on Brackley Point Road, then we can either try to make it inconvenient for them to go out there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe someone's trying to come out Spencer, cut through Ash, get up the Thistle, and make a left turn to go up the bypass. Well, we can restrict that left turn at Thistle. So there are a number of options that we can look at when we go to fine tune and design this intersection in these roadways. This is high level at this time. We just are trying to get people from point A to point B safely while controlling traffic flows and put them to roads that we want them. We want them to go to Mount Edward. So that is a main thoroughfare. We want them to go back out to Capitol and University Avenue. And we're also trying to balance it by, this land is owned by private developers who do want to develop it. So we're trying to make it so that we can control their traffic flows better and they're not inconvenience the local residents have been there for a while. That's why we don't want, we could upwards of 10 driveways technically could at some point in time end up on Manover Road between Fern Garden and Ash. That's a very short distance there to have 10 different driveways with some apartment buildings having 90 to 100 plus units in there.
Right.
So that would just be a nightmare, and that's what we don't want. We want to have one specific road that feeds the needs of these.
And some people think that we own that property.
Well,
Yeah, so that's a challenge too.
I was just going to say that, I think there needs to be another communication piece put in there. Like, I think, a lot of the people that are like, Kevin, you're right. The people thought that we were doing this, and we're not doing this. It's we don't own the land, and we have a right to deal with when someone wants to develop a piece of property, we by law have to honor that and carry out the process to see if it's a good fit or not. But at the end of the day, we can't do anything about that. That's
right.
We want to be out ahead of it. We want to have a game plan on how to control this increase in traffic and the volume. It can be quite a densified area up there, so we want to make sure we have a very sound plan to control that traffic and move them in and out of the area safely.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the point that was made by Mark or Scott, Mr. Adams, from Belvedere to the bypass. When you look at the exit entries on and off Mount Edward Road, did you count up to 18 Was it 18 he said?
14 or 18, 14,
Like
sure.
ash, oak,
Pine,
pine. It was,
Fairview.
yeah, this, and the mount. And then you have Fairview, Hillside.
Oh, yeah, there's
Like, when you
a-
take that into consideration, there's a lot of traffic that collector streets
Yeah.
feed into it.
Yeah. And-
So, and I really appreciate that that's the information that came out.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Chair, as you were there, did you think there was a lot more talk about active transportation pathways or the traffic study in general?
I think more about the traffic. I mean, people are wanting to know about active transportation.
But I don't think that dominated the
No,
conversation.
I think it was more about traffic.
It's about the
Yeah.
volumes, right?
You know,
Yeah, they all think it's all gonna go in their street.
yeah. But I think we could be doing a little better job of when we talk about creating a street like Spencer. You know, we should probably, you know, indicate that we are doing, you know, multi-purpose pathways, transportation corridors for
Absolutely.
bicycles and pedestrian, right? So we need to address that up a little bit when we.
And
the
that's
next
why I
time
wanted
we-
to add
yeah.
that slide into the presentation on Monday, just to make people aware that that's the goal,
Yeah.
that's the end goal,
Yeah.
is to get there.
Yeah.
And we don't, typically in transportation planning, you don't get into nitty gritty details of how the cross section's gonna look
Yeah.
everywhere. That's a full design plan, and
Yeah.
that's when you get into actually designing and building the
Yeah.
road, so.
And good job in getting the information out.
You know,
As Scott said, 200 notices
yeah.
were
Hand delivered.
hand-delivered.
Yeah.
And there was an ad in the newspaper,
Yeah,
which I looked at Saturday, and I sent Scott a text to say, Scott, where's the ad? Look the day before.
But anyway, anyway, we learned a lot from that. I think we're all on the same page with Councilor Yankoff, and that is we do need communication is a big piece of all of this, right? And we need to do more of it. I think what Peter's crew you got on board there, the communication team, wonderful. Like they're doing great stuff, and I think that'll help all our jobs at leisure as we move forward. So outside of that, anything else to bring up? Like you got your
Just
files
one
all
last
open?
issue, Mr. Chairman, that's what I love about your openness and transparency and accountability.
There you go.
I noticed that the parking lot, as Councillor Duffy knows and also Councillor Yankoff, the parking lot is completed on the south side of the Obin Erstone plant, building. The Obin Erstone building is where the old PEI hospital. It's all lit up. There's now a boardwalk coming from that down to
Good. Yeah.
to the back parking. I noticed that they also installed heritage lights. One concern, I don't know if you've heard of it, Councillor Duffy or Councillor Yankoff, but that stretch from where that new boardwalk is, Terry Fox Drive to Houston and Brighton, it is very dark. Could we look at some point in time installing heritage lights along that point? Like, if you're out there walking on your own,
One area you don't want
it's
to be doing.
very, very dark. I know one of our staff members in Parks and Recreation has brought that to my attention a number of times. But being there the other night, just on my bike, and I just said, wow, there's nothing, you can't see.
No, sorry.
So do you know where I'm talking? It's at the end of Fitzroy.
Yeah, right there.
And it's everything that's on the, I would say, the west side.
Yeah,
But they already have lights going down,
Yes. Yeah.
so it's not like we're breaking new ground.
No, it should be easy to fix.
Tried to have a new pole.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No,
Thank you, sir.
Good, I need
Thank
one
you,
motion,
Councilor
I need a
Yankoff.
motion, I need a
I'll move it.
motion. Moved by Councilor Ramsey, seconded by Councilor Yankoff, that we adjourn.